How's it going? Back to 1979 this week with part 8 of my year-long trawl through the significant albums of my 52 years of existence. And heading into what could be a difficult period to navigate. 1979, I was 7 years old. Pop music was finally getting through to me in a meaningful way, but by my reckoning, I wouldn't buy my first album until the age of, I think, about 11 or 12. So how do I go about approaching these kind of tweener years? Well, I still want these to be significant choices. So rather than bin my childhood favourites and go all in on the cooler, backward-looking choices, I'll be backing the albums that feature the songs and the bands that I remember being quite a big deal to me at the time. So that means no room this time for Gang of Four's Entertainment. Maybe the first and greatest, maybe, wholly post-punk album of the period. You know how I feel about Pink Flag, though. And no room for the B-52's self-titled debut. Is it post-punk? Is it new wave? What's the difference? Does it matter? Either way, an amazing album, whatever your thoughts. But I was tempted by Elvis Costello's Armed Forces. Very fond memories of my cousin sharing Oliver's Army with me on his shiny new tape recorder, which of course he taped off the radio. Or for that matter, Madness is one step beyond. This is the sound of school playgrounds of that time, no question. But I'm going to back up a week just to remind you of my youthful obsession with all things space related. And because of that, I had to go with this one. Fake punks, white boys playing at reggae. For a short period, maybe the biggest band in the world. Yeah, it's 1979, and I'm going with Regatta De Blanc by The Police. I previously touched on the transformative experience of hearing those weightless, suspended sounding chords from their number one single, Walking on the Moon, in my kind of second guitar trickery video. And this one also features their big time breakthrough, their first number one single in the UK. That's Message in a Bottle, which topped the charts for, I think, 3 weeks in September of 1979. Another piece of Andy Summers' guitar magic, really, those 5-fret spans required to hit the ninths for the the riff, the integral to the circularity of that melody, the lack of resolution. It's just one of the most iconic riffs of the new wave guitar explosion. Regatta is the band's second album, following 1978's Outlandos d'Amour, and backed up just a year later in 1980 by Zenyatta Mondatta. A lot of touring with this one, and another pair of huge singles in Don't Stand So Close to Me and Do Da Da Da. This saw them take another leap towards world domination, with both of the singles and the album cracking the top 10 in the USA for the first time. Probably the first of the new wave bands to go mega, I think. Well, if not, it's a close call between them and Blondie anyway. And with those two examples, I guess you could argue that helps us define, that separation between post-punk and new wave. New wave may have used punk, fashions and sounds and styles as a jumping off point, but tended towards incorporating various pop elements, disco, reggae, synth pop, with fairly traditional songwriting tropes and hooks. Post-punk acts, I think, tended to experiment, to play around with some of the more transgressive or art rock sounds of punk and proto-punk, and only turning up, pop as a kind of a consequence of the kind of more formalized or willfully inquisitive agenda that they had. Anyway, back to Regatta and The Police. Sure, the individual members were anything but punk when you break it down. Summers had serious jazz, blues grounding, and Copeland had played with prog rockers Curved Air for a while. But give him his due. It was Sting's songwriting that really made them the success that they became. Regatta itself is a typical turn of the 80s album in many ways. A few big hits, a bunch of great album cuts, and yes, some filler in there. Usually these were dusted off old rehearsal numbers, given some studio polish, and tacked on to get the runtime into that 35 to 45 minute bracket. No Time This Time would be the track that fits that role here. And here on this album, the instrumental title track, Bring On The Night, more Summers magic on this one, and the bobbing dubby, The Bed's Too Big Without You, they would constitute the good tracks that never really kind of hit as big singles. But they're also the more kind of slightly ragged, outlandosy type numbers like It's All Right For You and On Any Other Day, which are fun but definitely more lightweight, and I think a style that the band would leave behind very, very soon. Sadly, the dreaded kind of serious songwriter side of Sting emerged shortly after for the Ghost in the Machine and Synchronicity albums, which, despite selling by the truckload, for me, they just lack that bounce and that energy that those first three albums had. They weren't the first band to load up on that portentousness as they kind of ascended up the ranks, and it's a path that many an 80s band would follow. But for a while, and certainly circa Regatta De Blanc, they found a balance that served them and us very, very well. And that's my choice for 1979. Fear not, I'm not going to go full nostalgia on you for this stretch, but I do feel it's worth my while honouring the bands that I was actually listening to at the time, rather than just cherry picking the cool stuff. A couple of years and we'll be through this, trust me. I'd love to know what you think about the Police nowadays, looking backwards. Were they just kind of fake punks who got lucky, or was it just a case of they had the songs, they were going to be big no matter what? What do you think? But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching this far. Please contribute in any way you can, be that through likes or subscriptions. And yeah, in the meantime, take care, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now.